Thanks everyone for joining us again today. Last week, we shared updates on Oregon's unemployment rate and jobs numbers in September. We also shared information about the record number of job openings statewide between July and September. This week, we have some regional updates on each of these topics. As we've seen since the beginning of the pandemic recession and throughout the recovery, employment trends vary quite a bit across different industries and different geographic areas of the state. Oregon's rural counties are generally still further along in their jobs recovery than our metropolitan areas. As of September, Oregon's 23 rural counties taken together had added back about 4 out of the 5 jobs that were lost during the pandemic recession. The metropolitan areas had added back about 2 out of 3 jobs that were lost in spring 2020. At the county level, Crook, Harney, and Wallowa counties had more jobs in September than they did before the pandemic recession. So that means they've moved beyond jobs recovery and into a jobs expansion. Other areas that have essentially made a full jobs recovery, having regained nearly all the jobs they lost in spring 2020, include Marion and Polk counties and Lane County. And there are several other counties that are getting pretty close to a full jobs recovery, having added back about 9 out of 10 jobs that they lost during the recession. Those counties include Clatsop, Josephine, Lynn, Tillamook, Union, and Wheeler counties. Now, Multnomah, which has the most jobs of any county in the state, continues to lag in this jobs recovery. The county has added back about 2 out of 5 jobs that were lost during the recession. And statewide, we see that leisure and hospitality, local government, healthcare, and manufacturing are the sectors that are still the furthest below their February 2020 employment levels. Now in Multnomah County, similarly, the most jobs left to regain are in the leisure and hospitality industry. Other sectors in Multnomah County appear to be struggling a bit more than statewide, and those include manufacturing, professional and business services, and construction. Now, some of these things are related to or made worse by the pandemic. Area manufacturers have announced layoffs, and we've seen some closures since the pandemic hit Oregon. For construction, though, a few years ago, Portland had more big cranes up than nearly any city in the US. And those big construction projects were going to come to an end at some point. And at this point, many of them have. Others are expected to start, but haven't yet. Turning to the number of job openings in Oregon, last week we reported a record 107,000 job vacancies with Oregon's private employers between July and September. Every region of Oregon has also hit a record number of job openings at some time in 2021. In the spring, that high point was for Northwest Oregon and the Southwest area that includes Coos, Curry, and Douglas counties, and also for the Multnomah and Washington County area combined. This summer, we had record numbers of job openings in Clackamas County, the Willamette Valley, the Rogue Valley in Southern Oregon, and for all regions east of the Cascades. Statewide, we saw employers report record difficulty filling their vacancies this summer. They said that 4 out of 5 jobs were hard to fill. And of those hard to fill job openings, about half of them, employers said their primary challenge was either too few or no applicants for those job openings. A lack of applicants was also the biggest hiring challenge by far in every region of the state this summer. There just aren't enough available workers to fill the record level of job openings we're seeing across the state. Employers in Southwest Oregon reported the highest degree of difficulty filling job openings this summer, with employers saying 9 out of 10 job openings were hard to fill. Multnomah and Washington counties had the largest number of job openings that were hard to fill in the summer at about 20,000. Now, one more thing on job openings. Since our last briefing, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics had its first news release with data on job openings, hires, and job separations for every state in the U.S. Now, this measure of job openings and worker movement doesn't give us the same detailed information about the wages or the education or the difficulty employers are having filling job openings, but it does tell us the number of workers who are quitting their jobs. The number of total quits in Oregon rose from an estimated 49,000 in July to 58,000 in August. And that makes Oregon one of 15 states with significant increases in quits in August. Oregon's quit rate was still about the same as the US, though. In August, about 3% of the workforce, both in Oregon and the US, quit their jobs. With that, I'll hand it off to Acting Director David Gerstenfeld for more updates. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail, and thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. I want to really appreciate the research division here at the Employment Department for helping all of us understand how the pandemic has impacted our state, the economy, and the nuances of the economic recovery. I have some good news to share with you, and I'd like to start with the Paid Family and Medical Leave Insurance Program. I'm happy to share that we have selected a new division director, Karen Hummelbaugh, who starts on Monday, November 1st. Karen has already spent time meeting with some paid family and medical leave insurance employees and stakeholders, hearing what their concerns are, what they want out of her as the new director, and changes that they want to see in the workplace culture, as well as their hopes for the paid family and medical leave insurance program. Karen is the ideal person to provide stable, consistent leadership for this vital program. I chose Karen for her proven track record managing many strategic initiatives and unraveling complex governance issues at all levels. She is dedicated to putting the customer first and ensuring equity and access to services for all people in Oregon, especially communities of color, rural communities, and those affected by chronic and generational poverty. One of Karen's first tasks as she assumes her new role will be to hire a permanent leadership team. Recruitments for other open leadership positions, such as the deputy director, are already underway, and Karen will play a major role in the final selection of those candidates. Before joining the Paid Family Medical Leave Insurance Program, Karen was the director of the Office of Workforce Investments at the Oregon Higher Education Coordinating Commission. During her 24 years of experience within Oregon's workforce system, she's worked as a tribal liaison, a dislocated worker specialist, and has led multiple local and state partnerships and strategic planning efforts. All of this experience positions Karen well to keep paid family medical leave insurance on track to meet our statutory deadlines as outlined by the legislature. Karen will also work closely with our Paid Family Medical Leave Insurance Advisory Committee, which meets next week on Wednesday, November 3rd. That brings me to another piece of good news for this program. I'm very pleased that all 8 of the current Paid Family Medical Leave Insurance Advisory Committee members are returning for another 2-year term. This signals their commitment to building this program that is so important to Oregon workers, businesses, and communities. And I want to thank the advisory committee members for their time and energy, and importantly, for their insights into building this vital new program. We have some additional good news to share about providing payroll tax relief to Oregon businesses. Oregon is lowering the unemployment insurance payroll tax rate for the 2022 calendar year to an average rate of 1.97%, that's tax schedule 3. This is down from an average rate of 2.26% in tax schedule 4, which is where we are in calendar year 2021. This relief for businesses is due to the combined efforts of legislators, businesses, the Employment Department, and others working on House Bill 3389. Together, we found a way to help businesses recover from the pandemic while safeguarding the Unemployment Insurance Trust Fund. Over the next decade, Oregon employers are projected to save $2.2 billion in payroll taxes, while still ensuring that our trust fund remains healthy and able to weather another recession. Importantly, while Oregon is lowering unemployment insurance tax rates for employers, many other states are raising employer payroll taxes or even still borrowing money to pay for unemployment insurance benefits. This is quite an accomplishment and speaks volumes to the careful stewardship of the Unemployment Insurance Trust Fund and the legislature's commitment to protecting it. Businesses should expect to receive their 2022 tax rate notices by November 22nd of this year, and if they don't, they can contact the Employment Department tax section. We have more information on our tax rate information page at oregon.gov/employ/tax. And turning to our reemployment efforts, our WorkSource Oregon centers continue helping people find jobs and assisting employers in their search for talented workers. Our new media dashboard provides insights into our return to work efforts. In September, we served more than 17,500 job seekers, more than 730 employers, and hosted more than 33,500 new job listings in iMatch Skills. Both in the field and virtually, our WorkSource employees are helping match job seekers with employers. Some of the upcoming events that they're putting on include today, the Hillsborough Manufacturing Month Walk and Talk at the Hillsborough Brookwood Library. This Friday, we and our WorkSource partners are hosting a Tri-County Job Fair at the Lloyd Center in Portland with 30 employers. And this Saturday is the Mount Hood Meadows and Cooper Spur Mountain Resort Job Fair. I'm also excited to talk about a new pilot program that Oregon is participating in. We're one of 5 states involved in a pilot project to increase opportunities for people to learn the skills needed for higher paying jobs. This pilot is open to Oregon residents and businesses. People need to complete an IMAT skills profile and then reach out to the WorkSource Oregon office to access this free training. All industries need workers with these 4 IT certifications, and the average starting wage in these positions is $66,000. On average, it will take people about 6 months to complete the training. For more information about this, people can contact their local WorkSource Oregon office. And we also have a lot of information about various job events and other resources on our website at worksourceoregon.org. A reminder that to ensure the safety of our visitors and employees and to prevent the further spread of COVID-19, masks must be worn by all customers and employees. Talking about unemployment insurance benefits, we continue our employer and worker-focused listening sessions in looking at the available for work requirements for people that are seeking unemployment insurance benefits. We're pleased that these listening sessions are providing an opportunity for Oregonians to share their questions and comments. These sessions are being conducted in addition to the permanent rulemaking process, and our goal is to have multiple opportunities to get feedback from workers, the public, businesses, nonprofits, and others on the temporary changes that have been put in place. The temporary rule recognizes that if somebody has barriers preventing them from returning to work, such as difficulty finding childcare, they may still be eligible to receive unemployment insurance benefits if they're available for at least 1 shift per day or 40 hours of work per week. We have more information about this online at the temporary eligibility rule frequently asked questions. And we have 3 listening sessions remaining. They will be simultaneously interpreted in Spanish, Vietnamese, Russian, and Cantonese. Listening session dates and times are posted on our webinar page. As we're closing out the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance or PUA program, we're reaching out to about 9,000 people by email or letter who may still be eligible to receive some retroactive benefits. These people either did not note that they were impacted by COVID-19, or they selected the wrong answer when filing their weekly certification. The letters and emails we send will have instructions on how people can provide us updated information on their weekly claim. And earlier I mentioned our updated dashboard, but I'd like to bring attention to it again. It includes current statistics for our call response times. For last week, we answered more than 96% of the 14,900 calls we received in 15 minutes or less, and 88% of those were answered in 5 minutes or less. Nearly 97% of the contact us inquiries were resolved within 7 days. We're interested in hearing any feedback people have on the new dashboard, and that feedback can be shared by sending an email to oed_communications@employ.oregon.gov. In closing, we remain dedicated to helping people find jobs or training and assisting employers in finding the talented workers that they need. We continue working to ensure we have a healthy and equitable workplace and that the work we do best supports all Oregonians. I'm thankful for the department's dedicated employees. They really are an amazing group of people and are a team that I continually look to for inspiration and support. And with that, Gail and I are happy to try to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, now we're going to open the lines to members of the media to ask questions. We will call on you in the order you RSVP'd. Please make sure to state to whom you are directing your question, either David or Gail. And as a reminder, if you are joining us by phone, be sure to hit *6 to unmute yourself. And if you don't get your question answered today, please email it to oed_communications@employ.oregon.gov. Up first, we have Mike Rogoway with the Oregonian. Hit *6, Mike.
Oh, I was muted.
Oh, okay.
I didn't have the ability to unmute myself yet, but now I do. So I do have a
Sorry.
question. Cool. Hey, David, going back to paid family medical leave, when did you personally become aware of the issues there, and how did that come to your attention?
Mike, I kind of leading into the pandemic at the time, I was the director of the paid family medical leave insurance division, and was certainly aware of the intense pressures that group, as it was being formed, were under, trying to do so much work under tight timelines with all the challenges inherent in standing up a whole new program to serve all of Oregon, and certainly remain connected to the group as the pandemic took about a third of that team, including myself, away from focusing on that program. It's been much more recently that some of the concerns that we talked about last week around workplace culture and concerns that are more focused were risen. And since then, there have been a lot more discussions. And of course, we've moved pretty quickly to make sure that we're taking action to really make sure everybody knows that equity, inclusion, treating everybody with respect, and really honoring all different perspectives is just absolutely essential to us for the workplace we provide and to the services that we provide.
Would you say then, you referenced a specific single complaint last week, would you say those specific issues have come to your attention, over the last weeks or months?
I'm trying to put the best time frame to it, and my sense of time has been a little challenged over the course of the pandemic.
I hear you.
Certainly no more than months, and I think, I think it was recent months at the most that those specific issues were really starting to surface to my attention.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next is Kate Davidson with OPB.
Hey, just a follow-up on those questions. We talked a little last week about whether you could name the outside attorney, and I just wanted to follow up and ask whether it's a private attorney as well or someone from another state agency.
Sure, and I apologize that we weren't able to get back to you. We can share the name of the law firm that's doing that. It is a private law firm, not from another state agency. And it is the Barron Liebman LLP law firm that is doing that objective outside investigation for us.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to ask you about a different lawsuit, not that this is a lawsuit, but can you bring us up to date on which targets the agency has met in terms of timeliness from the class action lawsuit last year? What goals have been met so far under the settlement, and which are still outstanding, and what's the progress there?
Sure, and I won't be able to give you all the specific details. We are posting some reports publicly on our website where we're reporting on those. Some of the key metrics that we had were really around the initial processing of claims for regular unemployment and pandemic unemployment assistance. We have been exceeding those targets for quite some time. So I don't have the figures off the top of my head, but for months now, we have been processing most of those initial claims within 4 days, which is well ahead of what was actually committed to in the settlement agreement. There were some other requirements in there around having things made available in other languages. So we committed to making our online claim system available in Spanish, and we did that ahead of the required time frame. Two of the key ones were also around the timeliness of initial payments on new claims and around the timeliness of our adjudication. Both of those, we have not yet hit the federal benchmarks. On the adjudication, we hit them. We're kind of close, but we've had some recent challenges as new bodies of work were identified. In both of those areas, the settlement agreement itself, we're still in compliance with, because it had built into it some exceptions if certain circumstances took place, like new federal guidance or a significant increase in the number of claims that were filed. So we're in close communication, of course, with the attorneys for the plaintiffs in those cases. We're sharing our progress publicly. And I'll also point out that on the timeliness of initial payments and the adjudication, while we're certainly not where we need to be and where we want to be, our performance has improved very significantly to where we're doing better than most other states on both of those metrics.
Okay, thank you.
Next is Bill Poehler with the Statesman Journal.
Hi, so I got a question about the phones. You were obviously the progress has been pretty good and pretty substantial, compared with where it was even a year ago. Where's that as far as the staffing goes? Because I remember that the department hired a bunch of extra people, and where are there still like a glut of people in that facility in Wilsonville answering phones? Are there the National Guard still answering phones? Where's that as far as staffing goes?
So we have phased out using the National Guard some time ago. They were a huge assistance during the course of the pandemic, and they, of course, have been helping through a number of disasters in the state, and we were able to absorb that work while continuing to make progress. We do still have a large number of people. We're still having really high call volumes. I mentioned it was about 14,900 calls last week that we answered. So we do have people in our contact centers, although the vast majority of those employees are actually working remotely and have been for quite some time now. So they're answering phones. Really, a lot of the progress is thanks to the dedication of those workers and our ability to be able to go back and give them additional training so that they can answer more complex questions and resolve things more quickly. So we're again proud of the progress that we made, and certainly not done yet, because we know that we can do even better for Oregonians.
Right. So as far as how long do you the standards that y'all had set for when you wanted to hit these targets of let's just say the answering the calls in a timely manner, how long did that, or when did the department officially hit that goal?
We had a couple of goals for, again, I don't have those dates right in front of me. One of them was to answer, I believe it was 80% of the calls within 15 minutes, and we did not hit that quite as early as we had hoped. We have been meeting that consistently for about the past month, I believe. And again, we are posting our call wait times on our website, so we can get the exact date that we started hitting that. The next target that we had announced was that the goal was to answer 90% of the calls within 5 minutes by December. And as I shared last week, we were at about 88%. So it's still a challenge. Our teams are still working really hard to meet that. But at this point, it looks like we're really close to hitting that target ahead of the date.
Okay, thanks, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
Next is Peter Wong with Pamplin Media.
Hi, I think this one's for Gail, but I think David, subsequent to it, when I asked the question about federal versus state paid family leave programs, the president made some remarks that said his initial proposal was going to be cut back to about a month. So that clearly makes Oregon's program or proposed benefits more generous than the federal program, at least in the terms of the amount of time involved. So, Gail and maybe David would want to chime in. Two related questions. How much can your agency really help given the shifting job market, and particularly on voluntary resignations? Does the department keep tally on that beyond what you just said? And is this I've heard national sources saying this is a particularly high, not the number, but particularly high number of voluntary resignations from employment. So
it's a great question. So the August numbers that I was talking about with quits before, those are well ahead of the implementation for any state or federal vaccine guidelines that are going into effect, either have gone into effect or some will still go into effect, the federal one in November and another state one, I believe, at the end of November. So that sequence hasn't completed yet. In terms of what we've been able to look at so far, we went through and took a look at each of the guidelines and can estimate that 1.1 million jobs, or about 3 out of 5 in Oregon, is going to fall under one or the other, or both of those vaccine guidelines, either the state or the federal ones. In terms of when we see the next jobs report for October, which is still ahead of those federal deadlines and those extended deadlines to November 30, we'll get the same thing that we usually get, and that's a top line number of how many jobs were added or lost for a sector, and for the overall economy in Oregon. And we don't get specific information assigned from every business saying we lost 5 jobs because of people leaving because of vaccine mandates, or we implemented our own vaccine mandate and we were able to add a bunch of jobs for people that had been holding out of the labor market, out of fear of COVID. We don't get that level of specificity, even though I believe that we would all like to see it, especially right now.
Okay.
Okay, and our final questions come from Jamie Goldberg with the Oregonian.
Thank you. I wanted to follow up on the paid family leave program again. I had 2 questions. First, do you have a timeline for when do you expect the investigation by the outside law firm to conclude, and what OED expects to release publicly from that?
Jamie, I don't really have a timeline as to when that'll be concluded. We want to make sure that they have the opportunity to look into everything that they need to. And then once we get that, we'll of course need to see what we can share. Our approach for quite some time on pretty much everything the agency is doing is that we really want to be transparent, share how we're doing. We think we owe that to the public. We also want to protect the privacy of our employees as much as we can, particularly to make sure that people do feel safe raising concerns. That the only way that we can make sure that we're not just providing a good workplace now, but that we continue to make it better and to address kind of all the impacts of historic racism and make all of our employees feel safe, is to ensure that people are comfortable and know that it is safe for them to raise those concerns, that they'll be taken seriously and looked into. So we want to make sure to balance that with sharing with you all and everyone else while protecting our employees also.
Great. And then you mentioned earlier in terms of the sort of timeline of when you became aware of these specific concerns to the paid family medical leave program. I'm wondering then, based on that, whether the former director, Gerhard Tabell, is a target of this investigation and what they'll be looking into in terms of his management of this program specifically, and whether any of these concerns are extended to other programs within the employment department, are very specifically only concerning paid family medical leave.
Right. And Jamie, unfortunately, I can't say much about an ongoing investigation and what the allegations are. I can say that when Gerhard shared with me that he wanted to leave, the issue is not directly related to the complaint or the issues that have been raised. But we'll be able to share more later once that investigation is concluded. And really right now, our focus is on providing the stabilization to the team. I want to emphasize that the team there is really committed to building this program and committed to building it in a way that it is internally and externally really inclusive. And I know that Karen will provide the stabilization to help the team do that, and is bringing in other leaders that will make sure that that takes place, including bringing in some outside resources to assist.
And sorry, just the second part of that question was at this point, you guys feel like these issues were very specific to paid family medical leave and not cultural issues elsewhere in the department?
Right. If you're talking about the complaint, again, I really can't go into details about what's in that complaint while it's still being investigated, because we want to make sure that that stays very kind of objective and not impacted by anything that we're saying. I think if you look at just the culture at the employment department over the past year and a half, getting close to 2 years now, there has been a lot of pressure on everybody in this workplace related to all kinds of things. Some of it just the workload, some of it the types of pressures that I think all workplaces have seen during the pandemic, or most at least, with concerns about people catching COVID-19, having to shift how the work is done. And we also certainly saw among our own employees reflected the same tensions that we're seeing throughout the state, in workplaces and not, and throughout the nation, as racial justice issues have come to the forefront and really been given more explicit attention. So we've been having lots of discussions intentionally about these issues at the agency, and that's because we're committed to really shifting how we work and how we serve the public, so that we're kind of affirmatively out there combating those historic impacts of racism.